For killing his wife, Samuel Collins stands at level 2. This is the level reserved for jealous lovers who are not psychopathic.
Dr. Stone places Harris at the low end of his scale, level 2, crimes of passion.
Therefore, I hold her less accountable and place her at a level 3 on the scale, non-psychopathic, impulsive people who act as willing accomplices. Given the many questions surrounding her case, I put Martha Ann Johnson lower on the scale at level 5, a place reserved for traumatic, desperate persons who kill impulsively and without much foresight. For these reasons, I rank Bardo low on the scale at level 6. Given the nature of Billy Wayne Sinclair's murder, I would have initially placed him at 6 for hot-headed and impetuous murders. Daniel Nieto may have, at the height of his criminal life, been around level 6 on the scale for impulsive, hot-headed persons who have done violent crimes. For the revenge killing of his estranged wife and 4 other people, I placed Westbrook at level 6 on my scale, the level reserved for impetuous, hot-headed murderers who do not have psychopathic traits. This is why I place him at level 7. Killers in this category are extremely narcissistic, scheming, and driven by resentment. Egocentric murderers who kill loved ones for narcissistic reasons. At level 7, highly egocentric murderers who kill for narcissistic reasons. I put Harris at level 7, highly narcissistic but not distinctly psychopathic persons who kill loved ones primarily due to jealousy. Due to the severe nature of these delusional beliefs, I place her at level 7 on my scale of evil. Place him at level 7, paranoid killers with a psychotic core. Some lower on my scale at a level 8, which is reserved for non-psychopathic persons with smoldering rage who kill when the rage is ignited.
Ron Luff, for his unwavering complicity in the Avery murders, falls at level 9.
Jealous lovers with marked psychopathic features. The threat to her domestic status was enough to drive her to extreme levels of aggression and eventually to murder. I place him at number 10 on my scale for egocentric, psychopathic killers. At level 10, egocentric killers of persons in the way. Narrows at a level 11 on my scale of evil, killers of witnesses or people in the way. I place him at level 12 on my scale, which is reserved for power-hungry psychopaths. I place Martin Bryant at level 13A, reserved for inadequate, rageful personalities with psychopathy who are also mentally ill. A mitigating factor. They cloud his mind and remove some degree of responsibility for his actions. I place him therefore at level 13, psychotic delusional killers. I place her at a 13 on my scale, the level for inadequate, rageful personalities with psychopathy.
Dr. Stone places Ed Gein at a level 13 out of 22.
He does not have bizarre delusions, however, and despite his low IQ, he does know right from wrong. For these reasons, I place Yusef Rahman on my scale of evil at level 13. The brutality of her crime leads me to place Tucker at level 13, violent, psychopathic, and socially incompetent. Because of the severity of his crimes, I place Richard Farley at level 14 on the scale. This place is reserved for egocentric schemers. Because John List so unceremoniously killed his family, I started to place him on level 10 on my scale of evil. I consider him a ruthless, self-centered, psychopathic schemer.
John List is a level 14.
Her cold-blooded and scheming nature puts her in a category where the majority of killers reside, level 14. These killers are ruthlessly self-centered and calculating. That they got away with their crimes for over 6 years, taking many lives. For those reasons, I put them both at level 14, the place on my scale reserved for ruthlessly self-centered schemers. He therefore earns a place of 15, a psychopathic, cold-blooded, spree, or multiple murderer. His quantity of evil was greater than that of Collins and Harris. I place Ferguson at level 15 on my scale of evil, rageful, delusional, multiple killers. I place Dorothea at 15 on the scale, psychopathic, cold-blooded, spree, or multiple murderers. I place him at a 15 on my scale of evil, the level reserved for cold-blooded, spree murderers that claim multiple victims and who show no remorse at the time. For this reason, I place Charles Manson at level 15 on my scale of evil, a psychopathic spree murderer. Therefore, I also place Watson at level 15. They are both psychopathic and responsible for multiple killings. They would both also rank at 15 as psychopathic spree killers.
This reason that Dr. Stone places the members of Jonestown who committed murder at level 15 for the cold-blooded spree of multiple killings
leads me to place him at a category 15 on my scale of evil. I place him at level 15, multiple vicious acts. I would place her on level 16 on my scale of evil, psychopaths willing to commit multiple vicious acts. Like Karla Homolka, Myra Hindley was entranced by her partner's authority and was complicit in his heinous crimes. Myra belongs at level 16. For these reasons, I put him at level 16. He was not merely an extreme stalker. He showed sustained malicious inclinations, and hence belongs at the higher end of the scale of evil. Although he only killed one victim, I put him at level 16 on my scale, the place reserved for self-centered psychopaths who commit multiple vicious acts. Because of this, I place him above both Mullen and Dial at level 16, psychopaths committing multiple vicious acts. Wood and Graham beyond that level. Not only do they murder to solidify their bond, but they murder for the joy of it. Because of this, I place them at level 16, multiple vicious acts. Because of his multiple murders and abuse of power, I place him at level 16, a place reserved for psychopaths committing multiple vicious acts. I would place the killers at level 16 on my scale, which I reserve for psychopathic schemers who commit extraordinary and repeated vicious acts. Therefore, I place them at level 16, psychopaths committing multiple vicious acts with one or two extraordinarily vicious acts. Planning of brutal but detached murders, I would place him on level 16. A place reserved for psychopaths committing multiple vicious acts. I place him at level 17, a level reserved for manipulative killers who punish and torment society at large. Consideration of the violent sexual nature of his crimes, which probably would not have occurred but for the drug abuse, lead me to place him at a higher level, 17.
He places him with other sexually perverse serial murderers who are not psychotic. Arthur Shawcross is a level 17.
Motivated by revenge against men, Wuornos's ruthless, predatory crimes place her at level 17. He was callous, unmoved by the emotional terror he inflicted. I'd place him with other sexually perverse serial killers.
Ted Bundy is a level 17. Gary Ridgway is one level above Ted Bundy, level 18 on Dr. Stone's scale of evil. Jerome Brudos is a level 18 on Dr. Stone's scale of evil.
I consider him a torture murderer driven to kill to avoid detection, level 18 on my scale. I place him at a level 18 on my scale, the level reserved for psychopaths preoccupied with murder and who also commit torture to a relatively brief degree. It's for these reasons that I place the murderer, whoever he was, at level 18 on my scale, serial murderers that are sexually perverse. Because of the cunning, predatory nature of his crimes and the torture he subjected some of his victims to, I place him at level 20 on my scale. I place Jeffrey Dahmer with other torture killers who made their victims endure unimaginable suffering.
Jeffrey Dahmer is a level 22 on Dr. Stone's scale of evil.
I place him on the highest level of my scale, level 22, the level reserved for psychopathic serial killers. Because he made his victims endure prolonged torture, and because he also denied his crimes, I would place him on the highest level, 22, on my scale of evil. I place him with other sadistic serial torturers on the highest level of my scale.
David Parker Ray is a level 22.
Place him on the highest level of my scale with other sexually sadistic serial killers motivated by torture.
Wesley Dodd is a level 22 on Dr. Stone's scale of evil.
For that reason, I would place him on level 22 on my scale. If Steve is correct, I would place George Hodel at the very top of my scale, level 22. Psychopathic torture murderers with torture their primary motive.
Teresa Knorr at the highest level of his scale, level 22.
His crimes of domination and torture place him on the highest level of my scale of evil, level 22, for psychopathic torture murderers. Ian Brady was a torture murderer. I place him at level 22 on my scale. Because their plans were so horrifyingly detailed, and because they made their victims endure prolonged torture, I would place both of them at the highest level of my scale, 22.
Dr. Stone places Andre Chikatilo at number 22, the highest number on his scale.
I place Judy at number 22, the highest level on my scale, psychopathic torture murderers with torture their primary motive.
Dr. Stone considers Heidnik more evil than Ed Gein and Arthur Shawcross because he made his victims endure prolonged torture. Gary Heidnik ranks the highest on Dr. Stone's scale of evil, level 22. For the design and execution of more than 900 innocent people, Jim Jones falls out at the top of Dr. Stone's scale, 22. Jeff Lundgren reaches the very top of Dr. Stone's scale, a level 22.
For this reason, Adolfo Constanzo scores a 22 on my scale. This is the highest category on the scale. He was deceptive, depraved, indeed the consummate torture murderer. For these reasons, I put Holmes at number 22, the highest level of the scale. I would place him on level 22 of my scale. This is the highest category. For these reasons, he reaches the highest level of my scale, a level 22, the place reserved for the most brutal criminals who torture and inflict tremendous suffering on their victims.